argue that I don't care where you're at politically or socially or where you're at with this whole mask situation. The effectiveness, should we wear masks and all of this stuff. I don't care who you are. You have to admit that it is bizarre that there was no consensus. And if there was to be a consensus, it was the other way, meaning that these masks were not really helpful, effective in stopping the spread of a virus. If there was a consensus with all of the studies, even the ones that did have the actual RTCs, right, or something close to it, right? If anything, the consensus was that it was to the other way. But just for the sake of conversation, I'm going to give you a benefit of the doubt. Let's just assume there was no consensus one way or the other. Let's just assume that. Then this happens, this pandemic, what you guys know as COVID-19 happens. And then we move on to March, going into April. And then all of a sudden, the quote unquote science, there's some consensus that the masks are so effective. I don't care who you are. That has to be bizarre. That's weird. That there wasn't a consensus that confirmed the effectiveness of masks within the science community prior to March and April. But when March and April hit, all of a sudden, trust the science. This is what the science say. They're effective. So now you all gotta wear the face diapers for the rest of your lives. Again, don't care where you're at politically. You have to admit that this is a bizarre thing. This is a bizarre thing. That the science just like that changed. And now all of a sudden, March, April hits. They're so effective in slowing the spread. But the question becomes, for those of you that come from the more, let's say, you're about the numbers. What does the numbers say? The maths, the quick maths. I was looking at this the other day, and I've been looking at this for a while. And I would encourage you guys, when someone says that it is effective, I would encourage you guys to ask them to show the friggin' evidence. And I'm not, by evidence, I don't mean someone that is a scientist or someone that is a doctor saying that it's effective. I mean, let's get to the actual science. Let's get to the actual, some of these are rather math questions. Let's get to, and you've seen a lot of mathematicians piecing together these numbers, right? Let's see what that says. And can we come to an actual conclusion when you look at countries around the world that have effectively had lockdowns, that have had mask mandates? Have they been effective in, quote unquote, slowing the spread or even ending the virus altogether, eradicating it? Because that's what a lot of folks definitely get, that think that Trump has done a bad job. That's what they say, right? Is that if he just locked it down, national mask mandates, then we would have been over that. No evidence points to that actually being the case. I just want you guys to see this. If you're watching this live, or if you become a member of the Facebook, or you become a member of the YouTube, you'll be able to see this. And I'll link this in on the show notes, by the way. And you can see how Israel and Sweden, you're seeing that they had mask mandates here, right? And they had completely opposite effects. Right? Where Sweden starts to trend down, Israel have more restrictions, curfews, and a second lockdown going into September 18th, and it kept going. This is after the mask mandate in April 12th. So again, I'm not making the argument right here, and I want to be clear about this. I'm not making an argument that they are or they are not effective. I would think more evidence points to the fact that they're not. However, I'm not making that positive claim. I'm just going by what the data says, and the data shows that it's not as effective as what you guys are claiming. You can find places that had mask mandates that went one way or the other. Israel is another example of this. They got a mask mandate, and despite having a mask mandate, it went up. And then you got Sweden, who had a mask mandate, and it went down. Now, this goes back to the argument that I was making, and maybe there's other thing that we have to take into consideration. Miami-Dade County, mask mandate happens in April. You have this sort of level, right? And then it shoots up going into June. So if the mask mandates that were implemented in April, if they were as effective as what they were supposed to be, this right here that you guys are watching, looking at, this never should have happened. This never should have happened 3 months after the fact. This never should have happened, but it happened. So it went all the way up. And then it went down. It started trending down. We're looking at COVID hospitalizations, by the way. And before we were looking at daily new cases, by the way, when we're talking about Israel and Sweden. Hawaii, April, similar thing. Business are required to wear a mask. Then you got to wear a damn mask outside in July the 7th, right? So they had daily cases per 1 million. It was fairly low, right? Then they implement a mask mandate in July 7th that applies outside, and then the damn thing shoots up. Daily cases per 1 million shoots up. After the mask mandate, okay? That's Hawaii. Same can be said for, of course, the hospitalizations in Hawaii. Shoots up. If they were as effective as what you guys were claiming, this should have never happened. Now we're looking at some California, LA, Orange, Ventura, San Diego counties. Los Angeles, mask mandate, April 10th. San Diego, mask mandate, almost a month later, May 1st. Orange County implements mask mandate, month after that, June 16th and June 18th. Pretty much all of these fools, daily new cases per 1 million went up. And then it went down after the fact. Now, again, if it works in the way that you guys are claiming, we shouldn't be seeing this uptrend months after the fact. Moving on. New York City. April 17th, mask. COVID deaths by date of death, April 17th, which is my birthday, ironically. And now you see with New York City, COVID deaths by date of death go down after this mask. Kansas implements a mask mandate. July 3rd, still shoots up, continues to shoot up. And we're talking about daily new cases per 1 million. West Virginia, mask mandate. Going into July the 6th, still shoots up as you're looking at. Daily new cases per 1 million. Mississippi. Mask mandate will, after they have had a spike, August 3rd, starts to trend down after the mask mandate. Philippines. I love talking about this. I've talked about this on my show. Mask mandate, April 2nd. Levels out for all the way up through May. And it starts with this uptick. Whoa. By August 5th, the daily new cases are through the roof after the mask mandate. Peru, another one I like to talk about, had one of the more strenuous lockdowns March 16th. Lock down the borders. Lock it all down. Mask mandate. April 7th. They started to reopen. And by the way, during all this, from March 16th all the way through May the 31st, it was all trending up after the mask mandate. The initial lockdown and the mask mandate. Went down, and they started to reopen, went down a little bit, and then it went back up. High as it ever been. And then it went back down. And then it's kind of floating around. This is daily new cases per 1 million. Again, you need to become a member of the channel, either on YouTube or Facebook, if you want to watch this after the fact. If you're listening to the audio after the fact, and you will be able to see all of these charts. Daily new cases per 1 million. Los Angeles County. Mask mandate. Lockdown by March 2nd, 22nd. Mask mandate April 10th. Still trends up a little bit. Outside mask mandate. Reopens. Goes up. Goes up. Continues to go up. Mask mandate still there, by the way. And then it goes down. And as it continues to go down, as it tends to drop down, it notes here September 8th, Garcetti attempts to cancel Halloween. Spain. Well, there's another. Spain's a good one. Has one of the higher deaths per million. Full national lockdown March 14th. Public transit mask mandate by May 2nd. And it went up, obviously, after the lockdown. And then it goes down, and then it goes down. Mask mandate lockdown ends June 22nd. And then it just shoots right on up. It's almost like this immunity thing was something that actually was worth talking about. It's almost like there were actual epidemiologists that it seemed to be barred from their own communities that were saying that you actually incentivize it to be worse the second go round if you don't allow this damn thing to spread among the healthy population, as it has, as viruses have historically, because God made us have, these damn things called immune systems. We didn't have to rely all the time on injecting stuff into our bodies, believe it or not. France, another good one. Full national lockdown March 17th. They implement a mask mandate by May 11th. Fining people by July the 20th for not wearing masks. Implements mask mandates August the 18th, and still they continue to go up in daily cases per 1 million. And there's plenty of much more data that confirms this. So basically what this says is that you can find almost where the mask mandates were implemented, and you can find evidence to support probably either side, to be completely honest. That will support either side that will say after the mask mandates, the cases and the deaths and all the hospitalizations went down, or they can go the other way. You know what that means? It's not conclusive. And it means that maybe there's something else in play, other things that we must take into consideration. How healthy is the population, and so forth. I say this to point out this idea. I don't think it's as conclusive as they make it seem, as if it is. That when they just expect you to just listen to them, right? And they say the mask work. I would encourage you to ask them according to what? We haven't really seen any studies that have RTCs that prove this. When we look at countries, which is what a general epidemiologist would do, look at the countries, look at the what happened pre and post mask mandate. You see, as it was happening in New York City and New York, where you had people that were catching this virus who had been following all the social distance rules, all of the rules, had been wearing masks, they still caught it. And they're sitting and wondering, like, God, how could this happen? A lot of this stuff is political theater, and this is why a lot of folks don't want to hear that. Because what it does is it compromises an entire community, the science community. And this is why John Ioannidis was talking about this way early on. We had talked about John Ioannidis long before now. We covered him, and he was talking about how this has the chance to be one of the biggest evidence fiascos of all time. One of the biggest evidence fiascos of all time. And people would begin to lose their trust in us if we are using this for political reasons and not actually looking at what the data says. Talked about Jay Bhattacharya, Stanford University. Did one of the first American studies that had to do with the antibody test. He was part of that. Ioannidis was part of it as well. He's out of Stanford. And I remember him talking to, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, I believe of the Hoover Institute. And he was talking to him, and Jay was like, yeah, it's like when I first started talking about this, it was like my colleagues were telling me I needed to get in line. I would argue that if you didn't think it was compromised before, it's probably compromised. I would argue that it's for sure compromised. You have them even, what was that, Scientific or Science America or whatever. They went and endorsed Joe Biden, who was saying when he gets in office, he's going to implement a nationwide mask mandate. Keep in mind that fool wouldn't get in office until next year. But he's already talking about mask mandates. I believe a lot of this is political theater. And it's a way to give you this idea that, okay, for one, you're not going to catch the virus. You can't catch the virus. And it presents you as a hero, which is why they continuously flaunt around these doctors and nurses as well as people that wear masks. You are some sort of hero or uber, positive being because you decided to wear a mask. It's just theater. It's political theater. So let's call it what it is. Political theater. I'm not telling you to wear a mask. I'm not telling you not to wear a mask. I want to be clear. You do whatever you feel is comfortable for you. Analyze it for yourself. Obviously, my issue becomes when you want to force everybody else by way of government mandates, meaning you want to send the police to go whoop on people, find them, and in the event they decide to resist, you know what happens. Get bust upside the head by the law boys. That is who I have a problem with, and I will forever have a problem with you in the event that that's what you want to do. You are a private business owner and you want to implement social distancing policies with your private business. It's your private property. You can do whatever it is that you want. You do not have the right to force that upon other folks with their own private property. That's all I'm saying. So I of course question this idea that they are inherently effective when it comes to the mask. Or rather, let me be more precise with it. Not about them more so being effective. It's more of they're not as effective as these people are pretending that they is the case. Definitely, as you see, countries that have had lockdowns, have had mandates, very strict orders, going up not only in cases but in hospitalizations and other things. That's all I'm saying.